Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I'm excited to have Jodi Gibson joining me. Hi Jodi.
Hi Jackie, hi everyone.
So Jodi's an Australian freelance writer, property copywriter, and author of contemporary fiction. Her debut novel, The Memories We Hide, was published in 2019, and her second novel, The 5-Year Plan, was published in 2021. A self-confessed trivia nerd, Jodi loves to read, bake, travel, and devour mountains of chocolate by watching her favourite 80s and 90s rom-com. Jodi is currently working on her next novel while navigating the world with teenage daughters, a demanding ragdoll cat, and a boisterous and effervescent border collie. So, welcome, Jodi. Just want to mention that I've not quite finished, but about halfway through the 5-year plan, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a great read. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Just wondering if you want to start off by telling us about the 5-year plan.
Yeah, for sure. So the 5-year plan follows the story of Demi Moretti. She's set herself up with a 5-year plan for life. She's just moved in with her boyfriend. Her dad is about to retire and she hopes, or she's expecting him to hand over the family cafe, which she's been running for the last few years, over to her. And she thinks everything's set in stone until, of course, it's not. Her dad drops a bombshell and says that he's handing on the family cafe to her older brother, which goes a lot with the Italian tradition of family succession. So she just wasn't expecting it because she had been the one who was running the show and her brother had no interest in the cafe. So that was a big bombshell. And then she finds out that her boyfriend, who she thought was the love of her life, is involved in something that is going to see the end of their relationship. So she's at a crossroads. Her 5-year plan has basically crumbled before her eyes. So she thinks she's got to do something. So she heads off to Italy, where she's Italian, so that's where her family heritage is, and that's where her parents were born and grew up, and her uncle actually has a cafe over there. So her new plan is to go over to Italy, see what she can learn and bring that back, and hopefully by the time she comes back, her father has come to his senses. So yeah, that's basically the storyline.
Yeah, and what was the first idea you had for the book?
It's funny because the final edition of the book is really nothing like the first idea. It actually started, it just totally transformed. It started off with 3 friends. Debbie was one of the friends. And it was just about sort of the trials and tribulations they had going on in their life. But there was just something not working with it. So I put it aside for a couple of years. Worked on something else and then came back to it, and I realised that, Demi was sort of tapping me on the shoulder saying, this is my story, this is my story to tell, don't worry about those two. And so once I sort of embraced that and said, okay, let's have a look at this, see what your story is, it started to come together. And then it actually broke into what I thought was going to be 2 books. But I ended up combining both of them and bringing the Italian setting into the first book, which I think has made for a stronger book and certainly more fun. So, yeah.
And are you someone who has a 5-year plan yourself?
Oh, look, it's funny. I like to think I have a plan, but it's certainly nothing that's set in stone, not like Jenny. Because, plans are meant to be broken, aren't they? Like, you can't cater for everything that's going to happen and fall in your lap. So although I like to have, an idea of where I might like to be in 5 years, I'm certainly open to embracing change along the way and dealing with conflict and whatever life throws at you, because that's life, isn't it?
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about how you first got into writing and got your first book published?
Yeah, sure. So I've pretty much been writing in one form or another, ever since I was a kid, writing stories and ghost stories and then writing angsty teenage journals, that sort of thing. But I never sort of approached writing as a career until I guess like a lot of writers, particularly women writers, after they have their first child, they find themselves, maybe with some time on their hands. And I'd always had some story ideas running around in my head. So I thought, okay, now's a great time to sort of get them out of my head. And I'd been blogging for a little while, so I had an idea of my own voice. And so, yeah, I just basically started writing and whatever hit the page. And I've certainly come a long way since then. My first attempt at a novel will be one that is in the bottom drawer for forever, I think.
Yeah.
Right. You learn and grow.
Yeah, not something you'll go back to and do any changes to, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I had a look at it recently and I was just cringing, thinking, I know so much better now.
Yeah.
But it probably wasn't until I did Fiona McIntosh's masterclass in 2017, and that sort of gave me the motivation, I guess, and the confidence to say, maybe I can do this and maybe I can publish a book. So I wrote The Memories We Hide, and that evolved through that masterclass. And I pitched it out a few times and didn't get any bites. And I'd been interested in independent publishing. But hey, I'm a very impatient person. I like to be in control of things. So I did my research into indie publishing and I published that one in 2019. That one came out. It's a little bit of a different flavour to the 5-year plan. It's a bit more of a sort of a contemporary drama, I guess, with a bit of a rural setting, a story I'd had in my head for a long time. So I indie published that, and that went really well for a debut indie novel. I got a lot of great feedback, a lot of great reviews from that. And then the next one I tackled was the 5-year plan, which I had come back to, and that started to take shape, and I began pitching that out. And I was planning to indie publish that, and then Brio Books, I was introduced through a mutual contact, and things sort of happened from there. And they said, yes, let's publish this one, and that one came out last September. So yeah.
No, that's a great story of your journey. We've got quite a few people watching. Sharon said that she's read both of your books and thoroughly enjoyed it. Kate says she's just ordered the 5-year plan today. And Sharon wonders, are you working on your next book at the moment? And are you able to tell us anything about it?
Sure. Hi, Sharon. I am working on my next book. Actually have the printed out manuscript here. I'm in it's huge. I'm in the process of doing a final read through for that before it goes out to some beta readers, and then hopefully onto my publisher from there. It's got the working title of Reinventing Emily Brown. It's the same sort of flavour as the 5-year plan, so sort of a light-hearted, feel-good fiction with a little bit of comedy in there and a little bit of, heartache and conflict and all that sort of fun stuff. It tells the story of Emily, who has just had her life basically fall apart. Her marriage has broken down, she's lost her job, and she finds herself back at her parents' house on the coastline of Victoria, the southern coastline of Victoria, in a small little hamlet. And she decides that, okay, so she's failed at everything in life, and now she has to reinvent herself and, stand up and show her 15-year-old daughter that, she can be strong and she can get through this. So it's all about her trials and tribulations of doing that and what she learns along the way and how she ends up. So hopefully that one will be the next one published, but I'm also dabbling in a little bit of a very different genre because I don't like to, box myself into one genre. Always wanted to write crime or thrillers or something along that line. Okay. So it's very different. I am dabbling in that. What comes of that, I don't know, but we'll find out, I hope.
So the one you're writing at the moment, is that going to be self-published or you've got a contract?
Well, so as long as they're happy with it, they will probably be publishing. Hopefully next year.
Yeah. And Kelly wonders if it gets easier to write books the more you have published.
I wish it did, Kelly. I wish I had some good news, but In my experience, no. Look, in some ways it does, because you know that you've done it before, so you know you can do it. I think going into it first off, you think, wow, this is such a big thing. I don't know if I can do it. So in that respect, it's easy that I can actually do it. But I've found every book I've written, and look, I've written a few that, you know, I've put aside, and who knows if I'll come back to them or not. Every book has been a different process for me, and my process has changed along the way. I used to just sort of go in and write and see what happens, and now I do tend to plot a little bit more than I did. Excuse me. So, and that comes with, it's just a huge learning curve. And I think every book teaches you something different. So, although it doesn't get easier, it's definitely interesting and challenging.
And what about research for your books? How much research have you found you've been doing?
For the 5-year plan, I actually travelled to Italy.
Oh, really? Nice.
Right. It wasn't actually planned. We had already planned a family trip to Italy. We like to travel overseas every 2 or 3 years. So we had an Italy trip in, and then it just sort of all, the timing was right. So I actually added on Bari, which is the setting for the 5-year plan, onto our itinerary. So we spent 3 days in Bari. So I did lots of research there, and it was great coming into a new place, experiencing it like Demi would experience, you know, turning up for the first time. So I think it helped bring that flavour of her seeing this place with fresh eyes. And that was certainly a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But look, my books aren't research heavy. There's certainly bits and pieces along the way where you have to delve into research. Which is always fun. It sort of breaks up the writing process.
And I think in your bio we said that you enjoy baking. There is quite a bit of baking in the book. Is there anything that you'd like to share as your favourite?
I had so much fun. That was a good part of research too. Researching the food and experiencing it when I was over there as well. Probably the orecchiette, the type of pasta that region is famous for, was definitely new. I hadn't experienced that before. And there's so many different flavours and sauces that you can put on it. And I actually attempted to make some myself, which was a huge fail, but good fun. And then there's the lemon ricotta cake, which,
yeah, that sounded amazing.
I think everyone loves the lemon ricotta cake. If you haven't made one, or go for it, because they're pretty easy and they're so tasty, or just go out and buy one. Yeah, you've got to have one. But that was definitely fun, and I do love to bake. Don't get enough time to bake as much as but, you know, reading, baking.
Yeah. And Kelly wonders if there was anything that inspired you to become a writer.
I think the inspiration was just to tell stories. I've always been interested in stories and character. I've always loved movies and books. I did a lot of drama at school. At one stage, I wanted to be an actress. So I feel like this is like an extension of that, where I get to be, you know, I get to be all of these characters, and I find that very rewarding. And just being able to share stories, I think, you know, storytelling is one of the oldest ways of communication. That's how ancient civilizations communicated. It's how we deal with things of the day to day. It's how we share experiences, how we experience other people's experiences. So just being able to control of that world and bring something out there, I find it's just really joyful. It's a joyful, not always a joyful process, but it's a joyful outcome for me. It's something I really love doing. So, yeah.
And both Tamazin and Sharon have asked the same question. They wonder what you like to read and if you have any recommendations for us.
Sure, I do love to read. Sometimes it's really hard balancing writing with reading, because the more you read, the better writer you become, of course. And sometimes it's also hard to take the writing hat off when you're reading and truly immerse yourself in a book. But I read quite widely. General women's fiction and rom-coms are probably my favourite genre. But I also like crime and psychological thrillers as well. I dabble in a little bit of historical fiction as well. So I do read quite widely. What have I read recently? I have read Five Bush Weddings.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Have you read that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great fun. I really enjoyed that. So that's a nice sort of lighthearted, warm read with a great bush setting, some great characters in that. I'm currently reading Petronella McGovern's The Liars.
Yeah, that's another great one.
Yeah, I loved all of her books. I've read all of her books and I'm really enjoying that. And next on my list is Jane Harper's Exiles, which I think everyone's reading or is on their to-read list, of course. Jane Harper is amazing. So, and yeah, I am also listening to an audio book at the moment based on, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the television's show Halifax that had
I do remember it. Yeah,
it's actually a book of that now, and I'm reading the series and really enjoying that as well. So that's a real crime sort of flavour to that. So yeah.
No, thanks for those recommendations. And I was interested to see you said you love chocolate. I'm a great chocolate lover myself. I'd like to know, what's your favourite chocolate to eat?
Oh, that's such a hard question, isn't it? I go through phases. At the moment, I'm really into the Old Gold peppermint block.
Well, I just had some of that just before. That's what,
That's really good. I can down a block of that in no time.
Yeah.
And Lindt chocolate, everyone, you know, when you spoil yourself, some Lindt chocolate is always nice. But, you know, a good old Cadbury block is always good. So I'm really not fussy when it comes to chocolate, just not Turkish Delight.
Yeah,
That's probably easy to answer. No Turkish Delight, everything else is all good.
All right, yeah. And do you find you eat a lot of you're eating chocolate when you're writing?
Not necessarily when I'm writing. I kind of use it like a reward. So if I make my word count, or if, you know, I'm feeling really good about a scene I've written, I can, you know, sit down on the couch and go, yeah, I've done well. I deserve this block of Old Gold.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't really tend to eat while I'm writing. I try and get in the zone and just concentrate. Maybe a cup of coffee or a cup of tea beside me, but yeah.
And Jill wants to add Haig's chocolate. Their chocolate truffles are lovely, she said.
I do love Haig's. I was in Melbourne recently and we went to Haig's and I got some chocolate. They are beautiful.
Yeah, they are. And Kim wonders, what has been the most surprising thing about your writing journey?
Oh, that's a good question. The most surprising thing. I think probably the most surprising thing has been how wonderful the writing community is, the community of writers and readers in Australia and New Zealand. We have such a great supportive community of writers. We all support each other, we back each other, we promote each other's work, we share each other's work, we can talk about problems together, and everyone's just so welcoming, and that extends to the further community of readers who, you know, there's so many voracious readers out there who just love books, and I feel quite privileged that we are in this community where, and in this day and age where we can communicate with our favourite authors and our readers and really have a two-way conversation about books that we enjoy, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to we all love reading. We all love stories and books, and so I didn't. It's not that I didn't think it would be a great industry in that respect. It's just I didn't expect it to be so welcoming and supportive, and it's just lovely.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear. Yeah. And Belinda's question is, how do you choose your characters' names?
I know some authors find it really hard when they're choosing names, but mine just seem to appear out of nowhere, which I don't know. I can't really say, I have my favourite names, or I do particularly like I will choose, how old the characters are. I know how old they are when they come to me. So I will go back and see what popular names were baby names back then. And so I'll choose ones that sort of resonate and feel right. Or if the name has come to me, I'll make sure that it's not too dated for that time period. Or if it is, there's a reason why they were named that. Obviously with Demi, there needed to be a story about her name being of Italian heritage, but with a Greek name. But Demi was the name that came to me, so I had to include that story into the book. So yeah, I don't necessarily sit down and choose them. I was always given the advice that don't have names that start with the same letter, because that gets too confusing for readers. So that's have to keep in mind. But yeah, it's not something that I spend too much time on. It just sort of comes organically, I guess.
And Kate says, do you write from start to finish, or do you write scenes and then patch them together?
Generally, I do write from start to finish. And that's just because that's the way the story comes to me. And if I do have a scene in my head, I will use a notebook to write it down and just dot points until I get to that point in the story where I write it. So for most of the novels I've written, that's how the process has been, just from start to finish. And then, of course, in the editing process, things get moved around and whatever. In one of the books I'm writing at the moment, I have had really important and vivid scenes come to me. So I have written out of order, which is different. And now I'm sort of at the point where I'm pulling scenes together, and it's like, why did I do it this way? Well, I know it will work out, but yeah, it's been interesting, this new process. So, but generally, yes, start to finish.
And Mary wonders when and where you write.
This is my office. I am very lucky to have my own office. It looks out onto our backyard and our paddock. And this is 99% of the time where I write. I can shut the door, I can shut out the world. I feel like when I sit down, I can get in the zone to write. I have tried writing in cafes, and I have done that every now and then. But I find I get too distracted. I'm a bit of a people watcher, which I know a lot of writers are. So you start sort of wandering off and eavesdropping on conversations. So it's more a research trip when I, write in a cafe. But sometimes if I'm sporting events, or if I have to be somewhere and I'm waiting for an appointment or something, I might whip out the laptop and do some writing. But most of the time it's in my office. So, and it's a nice place to write.
And Mary also wonders, who do you go to for support or to share your writing?
I have a fantastic support network. I'm really lucky. I have an editor and mentor, Kelly Rigby. She's been with me for a couple of years now, and she's always one of the first people to see what I've written, and she helps me through the process as well. I also have a great group of people that I've met through Fiona McIntosh's masterclass, and there's about 6 or 7 of us who are still in contact, and we can always throw scenes out to each other for feedback and advice, and we can throw around ideas. And I'm also part of another author group where we talk about writing, and we talk about, problems we're having and nut through things together. But Kelly's probably my main one, and my proofreader and copy editor, Jo. I'm really lucky to have that support. And with this one I'm working on now, I'm throwing it out to a couple of beta readers, which is a bit of a new process for me, sending my whole book out for someone to read. So that'll be an interesting process. Scary, but interesting.
And have you had anything come from a reader that's maybe touched you or surprised you that you'd like to share with us?
I do. I get a lot of messages. Of course, you get the nice reviews on Goodreads and Amazon and things like that. But when someone jumps into your inbox on Instagram or Facebook and just says that, you know, they're I had one just the other day actually. They'd read the 5-year plan and they said it pulled them out of their reading slump. You know, they just felt like they couldn't enjoy anything, and they read this book and they said it just made me feel really good about life and you know made me want to read again. So those sort of messages from readers really make the difference. And with a book like the 5-year plan, where it is that lighthearted, and I think with everything to do with COVID and the pandemic, people were looking for that sort of escapist fiction. So I did have quite a few messages through that time releasing during COVID. And that makes you feel really good that you've, you know, made someone enjoy their day.
Yeah. And what about in-person events now? Have you been able to start doing some of them? Have you got anything coming up you want to tell us about?
We haven't got anything coming up at the moment. Not for the rest of the year. I just attended the Northern Beaches Readers Festival in Sydney. Fantastic event. I wasn't appearing there, but it was nice to just be hanging out and as a reader as such. But next year I am going to be one of the authors attending Rachel John's first book club adventure camp in Harndorf. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then hopefully with the book coming out next year, I'll have some more in-person events. It's so great that after a couple of years of doing a lot of things via Zoom and missing out on that sort of connection with readers in the flesh, so many authors are out and about again, and readers are able to go to different events, and it's nice to have that again. I think we've really missed it.
No, that's exciting to hear you're at Rachel John's retreat. I'll be going to that, and I know quite a few other members from our group are going to that as well. So we'll be looking out for you.
Yes, I'll be.
So thanks so much for joining us. We've had some great questions from people. Thank you very much for all the questions, and hope to maybe chat to you again when you have a new book out.
Yes, absolutely. I will keep you posted on that. And thank you so much for having me. You have a wonderful community here, so it's great to be a part of it.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.